Welcome to Weekly Sports Talk with Ed, episode 8. And today, we got a lot to cover. The WNBA is back for 3 days now. I'm going to talk about some WNBA stuff. I'm going to do a rankings of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL heading to next season. Talk about the NBA teams I'm most excited to watch. Talk about the WWE mid-card scene and about how good AEW All In could be. But first, I'm gonna start off with the WNBA. And like I said, the WNBA is back. Been back for 3 days now. Had some good games, like the game I reacted to with the Storm and Dream. There was a big win for Atlanta as they only have 8 wins on the season now after that. But mainly what I want to talk about is the seeding at the moment. As you know, two conferences, the East and West, top four teams for both conferences end up making the playoffs. So out of 12 teams, it'll be eight they go on to the playoffs. Right now in the East, you're looking at Liberty, who are 23-4, already have clinched the playoff berth and had the best record in the league. 3 games ahead of the Sun, who are 19-6, also have a positive record. Then in that East, the last two teams that will be in the playoffs right now is the Indiana Fever at 11-15, no, at 12-15, and the Chicago Sky at 11-15. So two teams under 500 with both led by rookie all stars. Yeah, right under them, right under the Sky's the Dream with 8 wins, and it's about a month left in the WNBA season. So it's gonna be exciting to see who ends up in that 7-8 spot between the Fever Sky. Maybe even the Dream can go on a high streak. Maybe the Fever and Sky go cold. You never know. And then in the West, you got the Minnesota Lynx at 19-8, first in the Western Conference. Seattle Storm, they're 17-9. Las Vegas Aces 16-9. So it's really tight between those three in the Western Conference with a 3, 4, and 5 spot. In the sixth spot is the Phoenix Mercury, who are 1 game over 500 right now. They're 14-13. And they have a pretty comfortable lead on the Sparks and Wings, who are both 6-20. And they're pretty much out of playoff contention, as well as the Mystics, who are 6-21. Technically, those three teams aren't eliminated yet, but it's gonna be kind of impossible for them to make the playoffs. But back to the Mercury, uh, they played 2 games this week. They only lost by 9, I think. Yeah, against the Fever. They were down by 28 at one point in that game. They actually ended up taking the lead, and that was a really exciting game to watch. I didn't react to it. I didn't. I just watched that on my own time. The Indiana ended up getting the win well behind Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell. It was a really good game and a win that both teams needed it, but the Fever needed it more than they got it. Then Mercury the next day would play Chicago and blew them out. They won by 20. Then Chicago earlier today, they had a close game with the Sparks. They won by 4. And Camila Cardoso has had a great week. The Sky went 1-1. They had to blow out loss first to Mercury, but a close win over the Sparks. And Camila Cardoso, she averaged 12.5 points per game, 9.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists, shot 64, shot almost 65% from the field and 75% from the free throw line. And she was very close to one of my athletes of the week for the WNBA. I'll get into who won it later in the episode. She was a close second. She had a really good week. Chicago went 1-1. Definitely would have helped if they were able to win both games, but she had a really good week, so I just had to shout her out. Yes, about uh from a month away from Monday will be the last day of the WNBA regular season. So it's winding down the final month. The hottest team in the league right now is the Liberty, 9-1 in their last 10. It's really nobody competing with them. Like I said, they're the best team in the league right now. They're looking like the title favorite. But that's it for the WNBA talk today. And I'm gonna get into the main topic of today's episode, which is ranking the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. So what this is based off of, it's based off of what, so I know what this is based off of, what they can do, what it's mainly based on what these players did last year, but also how good they can be. So a guy like So Aaron Rodgers, for example, normally he would be top 10, but since he missed the whole season, and I don't know how he would come back, I didn't include him in the rankings. That's just that. So guys like Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, they played a little bit during the season and they got hurt, but I still think they'll have great seasons because they're young, talented. With Rodgers, he's older, so it's hard for me to put him in this ranking just because I don't know how he's gonna come back. But I'm gonna start at 10 and go down to one. So at number 10, have Matthew Stafford at the Los Angeles Rams. Had a really good season last year, leading the Rams to the playoffs when nobody expected it. Puka Nacua became a star, having Matt Stafford as his quarterback. So, yeah. And there's a few guys above him that you can, I feel like 7 through 10 is a debate. I feel like whatever way you want to go, it's all about preference and what you decide. But I'll put Matthew Stafford at 10. He can be as high as 7. 7 through 10 is a wide range. Number 9, I had Jared Goff of Detroit. The Lions had a really good season. They had a lot of expectations, and Jared Goff felt the Lions live up to their expectations, and he led them to the NFC Championship. Another guy you can also argue that he could be higher, but Jared Goff, I was really impressed with what he did last season. Lions had a lot of pressure on him. He lived up to that. And now there's people are expecting that same thing from Jared Goff, and I think he can have even better season this year. Don't don't know if he'll be. He could potentially be in the MVP race if he plays better than what he did last year. At number 8, I have Jordan Love. This was his first year as a starter. He's been in the league for 4 years up to this point, because he was behind Aaron Rodgers all 3 of those years. He came in his first year. The first few weeks he was struggling because he's kind of like a rookie quarterback because he's never really gotten that run until this past season. So the first few weeks, it was definitely a struggle. But then the later weeks, after around week 7, week 8, he started to pick it up. Had some really good games, improved each week, got better and better. In the playoffs, he was good. Despite the game against the 49ers, where he threw 2 interceptions, if I'm not mistaken. One was his fault, one wasn't. But I was really impressed with how good Jordan Love was able to become. He sat on the bench for 3 years. That can really hurt, like, uh, what's the word? That can definitely make you feel some type of way. You having to wait all that time. Obviously, he was behind a guy like Aaron Rodgers, so nobody was complaining about that. But it was definitely going to take some time for him to get adjusted, and he got adjusted really fast. And this is short on the side of projection because I think he can def he's definitely going to be up here. He could enter top 5 by the end of this season. He's not top 5 right now, but I think the Packers have a really good season, and I think he can lead them with that. They don't have a true wide receiver one. They have a lot of wide receiver twos on their team. They made it work. Jordan Love made it work, and it's just really good team chemistry with the Packers. Number 7, Mr. Offensive Rookie of the Year from the Texans, C.J. Stroud, had one of the best rookie seasons for a quarterback. He was really good, whether it was passing, rushing when you needed him to. He was just able to adjust. But like, he had a really good rookie season. He was good in the playoffs, especially the game. But once he was decent in the playoffs because he had the game against the Browns where he really shined, outperformed Joe Flacco, who a lot of people were riding for after the comeback player of the year season that he had, which Flacco had a good season. Not going to take that away from him. But CJ Stroud was still a better player and better quarterback that day. Then they had the game against the Ravens, which it wasn't great for anybody on the Texans. that whole team struggled. They got blown out. But CJ Stroud had a really good season. This is also projections. So if you have a problem with Stroud and Love being above Goff or Stafford, I'm looking at last season. But for younger guys, also look at projection because they haven't been as the league as long as some of these older guys. But like I said, 7 through 10, however you want to put it, I think those are the guys that belong in that range. Number 6, going with my team's quarterback for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts. Last year wasn't spectacular. He still had a good season. Wasn't uh wasn't MVP caliber Jalen Hurts we saw 2 years ago. But last year he still had a good season. It wasn't great, but it was good. Still did his thing when it came to the rushing. Sure, you can say tush push and this and that, but if nobody's stopping it, watch out. Feel like in the playoffs, definitely underperformed. Feel like the entire Eagles team underperformed in that playoffs against the Buccaneers. We just can't seem to beat in the playoffs for some reason. But Jalen Hurts is still a good quarterback. We know what he can do and what he is capable of. I believe this season he'll get back to that MVP caliber player that we saw a few years ago. And I think part of him having a down season was the disconnect between him and head coach Nick Sirianni. When you have a disconnect between your star quarterback and the coach, that's definitely really difficult. As you see, we had a great start. The wins were kind of sloppy, but Jalen Hurts was having good games. Then towards the end of the season, the team started to figure out how to beat the Eagles because the defense wasn't good. It was a lot of games that were close with teams that it should have been close with, like the Patriots in week one, us losing to the Seahawks. That shouldn't have happened. Then ultimately we ended up finishing second in the division and had to go to Tampa Bay to play on the road in the playoffs. But I believe Jalen Hurts is still a top 10 quarterback, and 6 is the perfect spot for him. Number 5 is where I have Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is, I feel like Justin Herbert has become very underrated. You talk about a 6'6 quarterback, has the ability to do basically anything. He can see over the field. He's just had some unfortunate luck as a Charger. He's had not, the coaching hasn't been great. You get these star defensive, you get good defenders, but it's like they don't all align together, like they don't fit together, and then it ends up making the defense bad because you have some good defenders, but they don't all fit together. Your wide receivers stay injured. Even Herbert, he was injured this past season. One time you go to the playoffs, you blow a 27-point lead. And I'm not saying everything is on the team and that Herbert makes no mistakes because he definitely does. But Herbert's really good. He does what he can. And this roster is not like the Chargers have some good rosters, but they have injury problems, coaching problems. There's so much that goes into this team, and Justin Herbert, he seems to just make it work. He's still one of the best quarterbacks in the game, and it seems like people don't think about that when talking about Herbert because I think Justin Herbert, even though I have him at 5, he's on the same tier as Joe Burrow, who I had before. But yeah, Justin Herbert, he's really good, has a really good pocket presence, and I like his game. And the fact that he's 6'6" and can see over the field really helps because that's the advantage for him. And going into my number 4, like I said, for the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow. The reason I'm not putting him top 3 is because out of the 4 seasons he's played, he's been hurt majority of them 2 times, and he's even coming to the season hurt. And like I say, the best ability is availability. He isn't always available. As you will see, the guy got a 3. Uh, he Well, I'll get there in a second. But Joe Burrow, like I was saying, he isn't always available. And he's a good quarterback. He's very talented, a good thrower. And he has a lot of great talent around him with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And you obviously had to have talent around you to win. But I'm just pointing that out because Justin Herbert had guys like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams who stayed injured. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, guys that are usually healthy. And Joe Burrow, he did have a run in 2021 when he went to the Super Bowl, but I feel like that was more of the team, everybody coming together and just being elite that year. I don't think Joe, I don't think Joe Burrow was anything spectacular. That was a good Super Bowl run, which they ended up losing. But I feel like he definitely could have played better. And if he did, they probably would have won the Super Bowl and he would have been my top three. But the guy has three. It's Lamar Jackson, two-time MVP, just led the Ravens to the AFC Championship, the best dual threat quarterback in the game right now. And people talk about Lamar injuries, but people don't realize Lamar's played more than Joe Burrow. Even if you look, now I know Lamar was drafted before Burrow, but if you look at the seasons when Lamar and Burrow were both in the league, Lamar's played more games. And Lamar, like I said, he's an elite dual threat quarterback. Uh, he can rush for whatever you need him to. He just had he had five rushing touchdowns last season. He made his eighth, he turned Zay Flowers into a number one wide receiver. We didn't really know who was going to be the Ravens number one. Obviously, you had Mark Andrews as your tight end, the best skill position player on your team, uh, best weapon to throw to for Lamar. Then I forget Isaiah Likely. He had a good season playing with Lamar. So Isaiah Likely and Zay Flowers, two rookies who had good seasons with Lamar Jackson as their quarterback. And Lamar's only improved. And they got the first round bye, and this time they were able to win the divisional round game, got to the championship against Mahomes. And it's a lot of factors that plays into why they lost. Lamar, he's part of it. Everybody plays a part when the team loses. The coaches went away from the run game as it did against the Chiefs for some reason. And that forced Lamar to be in the pocket more. And you know that Lamar, he isn't a pocket quarterback. He can stay. He has times where he can play in the pocket and do it well, but that's not what he does. He's usually a runner. He's getting it out quick. It's not. He's not a guy that should be standing back there for long. But that's have Lamar as three. He just had a great season. I'm expecting him to have another great season. At number two, I have Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. The media seems not to like Josh Allen for some reason. I see these quarterback lists where they got Josh Allen three, maybe four. Josh Allen is the second best quarterback in the league. He's the second best dual threat behind Lamar Jackson. But the reason I say Josh Allen is better than Lamar because he's the better thrower and he's better in the playoffs. Despite uh, Josh Allen, his playoff losses, you can talk you can talk about Josh Allen playoff losses all you want against the Chiefs, against the Bengals. I know the Bengals one was bad, but when you look at majority of his playoff games, Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the games that he plays. But people got to understand that football is more than just offense, especially when it comes to quarterbacks. Quarterbacks can't do everything. They take all the blame, but then you have two other sides of the ball with defense, special teams, and you can. The Bills' defense has definitely cost Josh Allen and their team some games. But Josh Allen, he's the best. Josh Allen's the second best quarterback in the NFL. And this season might be a down season without Stephon Diggs. I think they're still a 10-win team. They might just miss the playoffs because of how deep the AFC is. You can win 9, 10 games and still miss the playoffs with how deep the AFC is. And I'm gonna probably do my predictions next week. But then number one, obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs, it's Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in the league. Really, no questions asked. Uh, he just won Super Bowl MVP last year, back-to-back Super Bowls, and didn't even have Tyreek Hill to do it. People question if he could win without Tyreek, and he did it twice. And now you got Rasheed Rice, who had a great season, and the Chiefs led the league in drops last year. They had 41 drops, and Mahomes took their team to the Super Bowl, and they won. And the Chiefs had a really good defense. Can't take no credit away from them. But it's pretty obvious that Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, and it's going to remain in this way. Even if a guy wins MVP like Lamar, he might have won MVP, but Mahomes is still the better player. You have to realize just because you had the better season doesn't make you a better player overall. But that's it for my top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. If you have anything you change or disagree with, I'm happy to talk about it in the comments. But that's who I personally believe are the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. Then next, I'm gonna get it to the NBA teams I'm most excited to watch. As the haven't really looked at the schedules. I seen which teams had the most nationally televised games and not, which I can get into that for a quick second because it was some surprises on this list. So the top five in nationally televised games in this current NBA season. Number one is the Lakers with 27. Two is the Celtics with 26. That's three and four is the Warriors tied with 24. And five, the Mavericks with 23. Then the least is obviously one, and it was 16, so got one nationally televised game, which was the Nets, Hornets, Pistons, Blazers, Raptors, and Wizards. And those six make sense. The Nets probably going to be the worst team in the league, but every team has to get at least one. Can't say a team should get zero games because maybe one of these bad teams, they just got it going and they go off that night. The Hornets, maybe you could have gave them two or three because you have LaMelo, who's a good young player, and Brandon Miller. So you got a few bright spots on this team. Not many, but a few. The Pistons, they maybe they could have got two or three. Cade Cunningham is good. They got Tobias Harris now. And I think that one game is against the 76ers, Tobias' former team. Blazers, Raptors, Wizards, nothing really much there. The top five makes sense. The Lakers and Celtics have the most rings in the NBA. So they're always going to be up there, especially the Celtics just winning one, and the Lakers having LeBron and AD and Bronny. So the Warriors, still a big market. You got Stephen Curry on your team. Still going to generate views as long as you got Steph. The Knicks got some big signings. Just had some unfortunate injuries last year, and they're one of the bigger markets, so it makes sense for them to be up there. And the Mavericks just went to the finals, added some more pieces with play, so it makes sense that they're up there. And the other two teams that have over 20 is the Nuggets with 22 and the 76ers with 21. Those all make sense. What surprised me the most was the Bucks having 17 and OKC having 15. OKC is more exciting to watch than the Bucks are. I feel like they should have had more TV games than them. The Grizzlies only having 9 games definitely surprised me with Jock coming back. Maybe they could have been a team. Maybe they could have had like 11 or 12, just a few more, because they have the same amount as the Pelicans, Clippers, and Pacers. And I think out of those 14, the Clippers are the least exciting to watch because you never know about Kawhi self. The other teams, they have good young talent. And then the lack, what a Magic having 5 games was definitely surprising after the season they just had. But they're a really good defensive team, so people probably don't want to see that. People like to see scoring. And see, I'm fine with it. I like a team like Orlando that plays defense, keeps the game slow scoring. I like that type of basketball. But that's just my thoughts on the nationally televised games. I have league pass, so it won't matter to me. I can watch whoever I want, whenever I want. But it was just interesting to see. But the teams I'm most excited to watch in the East, the Hawks, because Trae Young is my favorite player. So as long as he's with the Hawks, I'll be tuned into their games. Orlando, they just had a great season. I'm expecting them to do more, be better this year. And I love Paolo and what he can do. This might be a surprise to some people, but the Pistons, Cade Cunningham, one of my favorite guards in the league. They added Tobias. I think they can be a play-in team this year. I know they just had a very terrible season, but I think with the addition of Tobias and how weak the East is, I think they can help make them a play-in team. Like the 10th seed, get eliminated the first game of the play-in. Sound like they're trying to do something crazy spectacular, but I think Cade is gonna have an all-star type year. Then last for the East. It's the Knicks on with the new pieces they got. Uh, Having OG for a full season, add Mikhail, got all the real Nova boys together now. I'm excited to watch this team. They're going to be great defensively. Jalen Brunson is only going to rise. Probably he's going to make all NBA again. Because those are the 4 teams in the Eastern Conference I'm most excited to watch this season. In the 4 teams in the Western Conference I'm most excited to watch. Number one, the Lakers. Obviously, they're my favorite team. We got LeBron, AD, Reeves. We didn't do much in the offseason, but it's my favorite team, so I'll always be excited to watch them, no matter what the roster is. Even if we're going to be a play-in team again, this is always going to be the team that I'll watch the most during the season. Next is the Spurs. Wemby, one of the best players in the league already, had a phenomenal rookie year. One of the best defenders in the league as well. He's going to be an all-star, win Defensive Player of the Year. I'm predicting already he's going to be an all-star, be on the All-NBA team, win Defensive Player of the Year. Spurs, I think the Spurs can be a play-in team, especially after having Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes, 2 vets that the Spurs needed. They needed a point guard and just having a wing that can help you win some games. Even, they're both older, but they can definitely help the Spurs and help Wemby. OKC, love Shea, one of my favorite players in the league. They got a great roster. They added Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein. Feel like those are 2 of the best. Those were 2 really good pickups for OKC, and definitely gonna help them stay at number 1 seed in the West and get even further in the playoffs this year. Then next is the Timberwolves. Like that's like with the Magic, they're one of the best defensive teams, and I love a team like that that plays really good defense. With Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns. But yeah, and last year I watched 7 teams play 40 or more games, and I watched a few teams play that's 30, 39. That's why I chose 8 teams in total, 4 from the East, 4 from the West. But the Lakers, Hawks, Spurs, Magic, OKC, Pistons, T-Wolves, Knicks, those are the 8 NBA teams I'm most excited to watch this upcoming season because it's a lot of variety of different stuff that I'm expecting from these teams. Seeing some of my favorite players, seeing some good defensive teams. I'm just excited for the NBA season and, and whole. And the next topic of today's episode is the WWE mid-card scene. Uh, as you know, the WWE and the mid-card scene hasn't always been great, but I think over the course of this year, it's been good, especially when Gunther became IC champion. That Gunther became IC champion in 2022. That really elevated the Intercontinental title scene. Then you had multiple different U.S. champions. You had Logan Paul. He elevated the title because he was bringing it different places, but he wasn't defending it. But it definitely made a bigger star of, not bigger star, but it helped when LA Knight beat Logan Paul because you had some, even though LA Knight hadn't won a championship, he was the most credible guy to take the title off Logan Paul. And the women's tag team championships, they haven't always been great. But under Triple H's booking, he's made this feel important. First, I'm gonna start with the United States Championship over on SmackDown. LA Knight, like I said, beat Logan Paul at SummerSlam to become the new US champion. Next week on SmackDown, he's fighting Santos. He's defending his championship against Santos Escobar. And Escobar, his promo work is didn't get to showcase it much when he was with Rey Mysterio. But since he's broke off from Rey Mysterio, I think he's done a really good job with his promo work. Then you have other guys like the guy that Santos beat was Andrade, and the reason Andrade lost was because of Carmelo Hayes. So you got LA Knight the champion, then you got Santos, Andrade, Carmelo Hayes all in the mix wanting to get that championship. And as you see, Andrade, he wanted that win against Carmelo Hayes to face LA Knight. Carmelo cost him. And these are, and I think LA Knight retains, and Andrade or Carmelo Hayes, those are 2 credible. two legit contenders to fight LA Knight for the championship. As you see, Carmelo Hayes just beat Andrade, and now Andrade is up 2-1. And they've had three matches on SmackDown. Each match has been good, and each match has gotten better. I'm really hoping for the best of seven series, like I talked about. I don't know if this was last week or 2 weeks ago on the podcast, but I talked about Carmelo and Andrade. They need a best of seven series, and everybody wants it. Like, that's at three really good matches. It gets better each time, and I wouldn't mind seeing this happen. Uh, this ending at a pay-per-view, despite it not being for the title. The way you can end it is whoever wins the feud, they end up getting a shot at the United States Championship. And if they lose, then whoever, yeah, that would be a great way to end it. End it as like bad blood or something. I can definitely see them extending this. This is one of the best rivalries on SmackDown. And they're obviously, all four of these guys that I mentioned are obviously mid card wrestlers at the moment. Then LA Knight, I think he's going to have a good run with the United States Championship. He might not hold it a year. Like Logan Paul, he held it for 250 something days. LA Knight might hold it for a few months, then he loses to somebody. He loses to a Carmelo Hayes in January. Like the title reigns don't have to be super long, but the U.S. But I feel like all the mid card titles at the moment have great stories going along with them. And that's gonna let me transition to the women's tag team titles. You always have the women's championship and uh, the women's world championships. But then the mid card for the women is the women's tag team titles, which is held by Isla Dawn and Alpha Fire. But they've done a great job with promos, had some good matches. As champions, not all of their matches have, when it, their tag team matches have been great. The tag team stuff has been great. When it comes to one-on-one stuff, not so much. But I feel like they've done a good job with this. Obviously, Damage Control with Io Sky and Kyrie Sane. They're trying to regain their titles. They had a match with Sonya, uh, Pure Fusion Collective, which is Sonya Deville's group with her, Zoe Stark, and Shayna Baszler. Zoe Stark, Shayna Baszler had a match with Damage Control, and it was going good, but then one of Albert Alba, they got hit, then EO was going to win. They interfered. They match ended in disqualification, and then on this upcoming Raw, it's going to be a triple threat tag team match between those three teams to fight for the women's tag team championships. But don't forget Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. They still had to get another rematch because when they lost the titles, they weren't pinned. Neither Jade or Bianca were pinned because it was a triple threat tag team match. Then when they did get a rematch, it ended in interference because of Blair Davenport. Then next week on SmackDown, Bianca, Jade, and Naomi team up to face Alabama, Apple Fire, and Blair Davenport. So it's like all these groups have a third person, and obviously Damage Control, Kyrie Sane, Asuka, they're both injured. So prayers up to them. There's been some injuries this year, and that just really sucks, especially. Asuka, she's been out a while because she had knee surgery, and I don't know the timeline for, no, I think I said Kyrie Sane, I meant to say Dakota Kai. I don't know the timeline for Dakota Kai, how long she'll be out, but prayers up to them. Just hoping all these wrestlers can stay healthy. But back to what I was saying, you have four credible teams, Alabama and Alpha Fire, since they have won the titles, have become a very good team. Obviously, Damage Control, they've been established. Io Sky, Kyrie Sane, uh, Sonya Deville, not Sonya, but her group, Shayna Baszler, and Zoe Stark. They've been good. Maybe they should have won the titles a few months ago. We don't know what's going to happen on Raw when they had a triple threat tag team match. But whoever wins, they're going to have to face Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill at some point. And Bianca, she's a certified star. Out of all these women I named, she's the best she's the best wrestler. And Io Scott has an argument for that too. But when it comes to everything like mic work, all of that included, it's definitely Bianca Belair. And she's in the mid card scene right now. She doesn't need a world title at the moment. We know she will get back to that point. But to just have these four teams in that division fighting over the title, it makes the women's tag team title seem relevant. And it hasn't felt like that. Wow. Then the Intercontinental title that Braun Breaker won it from Sami Zayn. They had three matches, one where Sami retained, the other where Braun won. Then Sami got a three match, and the third one, best two out of three, Braun Breaker ended up winning the match. The match at Money in the Bank uh, was good. The match at SummerSlam wasn't great. That was my least favorite, and I think that was the worst one out of the three. And the match they had on Raw, that was great. The match on Raw was great. That was number one. Money in the Bank back to B2, that was really good. Then the match at SummerSlam, didn't enjoy that one. That would be the last out of those three. But Braun Breaker and Sammy have good chemistry. Obviously, they were fighting over the Intercontinental title. Sammy probably isn't in the IC title scene now after he's got his rematch, had a good run with the title. And like I said, it doesn't have to last forever. Now, Braun, he might go on for a year to have it, might go on 6 months. But then you got guys like Sheamus, Ludwig Kaiser, Pete Dunne. They're all intertwined in a feud together. But Sheamus, he hasn't won the Intercontinental title, and he still wants to win it at some point. Ludwig Kaiser, he looks like a legit mid Carter. He could definitely challenge Braun, even though it's heel versus heel. They can make it work. They're doing KO versus Cody for the you know, undisputed championship in his face versus race, and heel versus heel can work. It Pete Dunne, even and you don't know where this rivalry is gonna go between these guys. And even like a Brunson Reed, like he's been looking dominant. He might get a shot at the Intercontinental title. But Braun Breaker's going a good run. A guy I didn't even think about till now, Ilya Dragunov. He might be the one that ends up taking it from Braun Breaker. And, they have good chemistry. They've obviously done some stuff in NXT before. Yeah, I think the mid card scene in WWE is looking great with the U.S. title, the Intercontinental title, and women's tag team titles. I'm really enjoying the mid card scene in WWE right now, and I think it's only gonna get better from here. So next, some AEW. All In is shaping up to be a great card, and even though it's expensive, it's gonna be $54. I'm gonna pay for it again. Not the best money investment, but the good thing is you can always rewatch the pay per view whenever you want to. So it's not as bad as you think, and it's gonna be at 12. It's August 25th. We got the MJF scarf on. MJF and Osprey are having their match for the American title. But what's interesting about this is that whoever wins is gonna have to face Pac at All Out because really this was supposed to be Pac's opportunity at All In, and that was taken away from him. So whoever wins this, they won't have much time to recover because Pac is gonna be lurking and he's going after that championship. But you already know who I'm rooting for. I like Will Ospreay, but I love MJF, so I'm rooting for MJF to keep that title. I'm going to run with it. Rooting for him to beat Pac too, even though I like Pac. Jack Perry and Darby Allin are gonna have a coffin match for the TNT title. I feel like I lose interest in this feud every week, even with Jack Perry attacking Darby Allin and shutting the garage door on him, uh, then trying to roll something into his head and security stopping him. I just get less interested in it each week. I don't know. Every rivalry just isn't for people, and I guess this just isn't for me. Because Darby Allin is my favorite wrestler in AEW, and I want him to win the match. But I'm not really interested in this one. Maybe the stakes of it being a coffin match makes it more interesting, but I feel like the promo work from both of them has been great during this rivalry. A lot of stuff, and I wish they would have matches where people interfere or they have tag team matches. It's just the constant backstage because it's not much time left for them to do a match where it's like Darby Allin has a match against MJF, then Jack Perry interferes to cost him a match or something like that. And it doesn't have to be MJF. It could be some random guy from like the random guys they be getting that, like a ring honor guy they go up against Jack Perry and Darby Allin makes them lose. Like the constant backstage attacks and promos, it's not cutting it for me, unfortunately. Brian Danielson's career is on the line against Swerve Strickland. I'm really torn on who I think is gonna win this match. Because Danielson said this is his last year as a full-time wrestler, but now it could be his last year as a wrestler at all. But Swerve has had a really good run. I don't know. And if it was at any event for him to losing at Wembley would be a good choice because it's not random. It's one of the biggest events. And it doesn't hurt Swerve. I don't think it hurts Danielson either. But I'm really torn on who I think wins this match. Uh, the Hook gets his final shot at the FTW Championship against Chris Jericho. Didn't feel like this match was necessary. I think this rivalry has dragged, it's ran its course, but hopefully this is the end of it. And Hook gets the title back because Jericho doesn't need it. Hook doesn't need it either, but it really AEW is in a really weird spot with this championship. Because both of the guys competing for it don't need it. Jericho definitely doesn't need it. He's an established vet, one of the best of all time. And Hook has had it like 2 or 3 times already. Nobody, it's only been 2 other champions in AEW's history while having the FTW championship. So it's like you might as well, as soon as Hook wins it, you might as well retire the title. Tony Storm and Mariah May, that rivalry just just continues to pick up. That's been one of the best rivalries in AEW. I'm hoping Mariah May wins the women's championship. She deserves it. Tony Storm has had a good run, but I'm expecting that match to be good. If that match is if that match is bad, I'll be very disappointed in that because that's definitely been one of the best women's feuds of the year. Mercedes Monet and Britt Baker. That's gonna that match is gonna deliver, and I enjoy what they did with on Dynamite. It was Mercedes and Camille. Mercedes had won a match. It was against Hikaru Shida to retain the TBS Women's Championship. Then Camille, her bodyguard or whatever, she saw this person in the crowd that looked like Britt from last week because she had this mask on. And I'm pretty sure it was a paid actor because you can't just toss a fan like that. But then Camille tossed that person over the barricade while Britt's music was playing. But then Britt came from the back to attack Mercedes, and Britt was the one standing tall. Yeah, that rivalry, it continues to grow. Willow Nightingale and ECE have a match on the 0 hour against Chris Statlander and Stokely. Haven't seen Stokely wrestle, so this is going to be interesting. It actually makes me excited about this match because this rivalry is going on for a while with Willow and Chris, but the fact that it's getting Stokely involved as a wrestler, he's going to have to get in the ring with ECE. It's going to be really funny, and I'm excited to see that. But yeah, AEW All In is shaping up to be a really good show, and All In Wembley. Next year they're going to be in Texas, but I heard that in 2026 they're going to be in Wembley again. Yes, when the opportunity is there, you got to take it. So in 2025 they're going to be in America for Wembley. Then in 2026 go right back to London, England. But I'm liking how the card is shaping up for the most part. Then Collision probably just wrapped up a few minutes ago as I'm filming this at 9, started at around 8:30, I think. And then for the last segment, as always, my athletes of the week start with WWE. I had to give it to the Street Profits. The Street Profits and DIY had the best match of the week. They had, whatever the last match of SmackDown wasn't the main event segment, but it was the last match. The Street Profits and DIY, it was the number 1 contenders match, and the winners would face Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu of the Bloodline for the tag titles next week on SmackDown. And the Street Profits ended up winning. This was a really good back and forth match. Didn't really know who was gonna win. Like I predicted the Street Profits to win, uh, but it was moments where I was scared. I thought DIY would have won it, and really whoever won this match was gonna get Athlete of the Week for WWE. And I had to give it to a tag team for the first time. I usually just pick one person, but this week, but sometimes like wrestlers and tag team matches, like a 6 man, but that's specifically in AEW. Like I might pick whoever stood out, but I'm gonna start doing this where I go with tag teams if they have a really good match. So I had to go with the Street Profits. And the work they've been doing has been really good the last few weeks. They're getting feel like they're getting back to what they were in 2021 when they're one of the best tag teams, and they're still one of the best. That we know how good they are, but now they're really starting to pick up steam, picking up feet right now. And I think they beat the Bloodline for the titles due to Jimmy costing the Bloodline titles next week. That's what I see happening. For AEW, I went with Mercedes Monet. As I said earlier, she beat Hikaru Shida to retain the TBS Women's Championship. That match was really good, especially, and it started off dynamite. Really enjoyed that match. Thought Mercedes did her thing. The segment after that was cool. Yeah. And then for the WNBA, went with uh Fessa Collier from the Minnesota Lynx. They went they went 2-0, and their wins were they had two wins this week. Yeah, they had two wins against the Washington Mystics, both for double digit wins. Yes, they had played two games against the same team in the same weekend, but she averaged 23.5 points per game, 3.5 assists, 8 rebounds, 75% from the free throw line, 42.8% from three, and 65.5% from the field. So she had a really good and efficient week. And if you think the I want to talk about the threes, nearly 43%. She took 7 threes this weekend in two games. Shot 3 of 7 from three in total. So that's really good. She had a really good uh, weekend leading them to wins. And these games are important because it's the last month of the WNBA season. But that's it. This edition for a weekly sports talk with Ed. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. Anything you want to comment about, I'll be happy to discuss it in the comments, whether it be who I chose for athletes of the week, what I said about some of the stuff with AEW All In, the WNBA stuff I talked about earlier, uh, the mid-card scene in WWE, on my top 10 quarterbacks list. But that's everything. Peace.